What if the most hated man in Australian rugby became one of the greatest players the sport has ever seen? What if running away was the best decision he ever made? In July 2008, Australia woke up to a story that shook the entire rugby league world. One of the most gifted players in the country had vanished overnight. No press conference, no farewell, no explanation. Sonny Bill Williams, the man Canterbury Bulldogs CEO Todd Greenberg called their best player, had simply disappeared. He left behind a 5-year contract, a furious club, and millions of stunned fans. He boarded a plane to France using a Samoan passport, leaving behind a legal firestorm that would land in the Supreme Court of Australia. The rugby world condemned him instantly. He was called a coward, a traitor, a disgrace. Fans who had idolized him turned on him overnight. His name became a warning, a cautionary tale about loyalty, greed, and selfishness. But that is only half the story, because what happened next is one of the most extraordinary redemption arcs in the history of professional sport. The man who fled in shame would return as a champion, the traitor would become a legend, and the most hated player in Australia would lift the Rugby World Cup, not once, but twice. This is the full story of Sonny Bill Williams, the fall, the exile, and the redemption. The rise. From public housing to rugby prodigy, Sonny Bill Williams was born on August 3, 1985 in Auckland, New Zealand. He grew up in public housing in Mount Albert, the son of a Samoan father and a white mother, a mixed-race kid in a neighborhood where fitting in was not always easy. From the very beginning, he carried the weight of not quite belonging, but on the rugby field, none of that mattered. He was faster, stronger, and more naturally gifted than anyone around him. By the age of 14, talent scouts from the Canterbury Bulldogs in Sydney had spotted him. He was offered a contract, becoming the youngest player ever, to sign with an NRL club. He moved to Sydney alone as a teenager, trained full-time, and worked as a laborer on the side. In 2004, at just 18 years old, he made his NRL debut and helped the Bulldogs win the grand final that same year. He was named International Newcomer of the Year. The rugby world had found its next superstar, but beneath the success, something was wrong. Williams later revealed he was deeply unhappy, struggling with his identity, his mental health, and an off-field lifestyle that was slowly consuming him. He described waking up every morning feeling disgusted with himself. He did not yet have the words for what he was experiencing. He only knew one thing: he needed to escape. The betrayal, the night he disappeared. In July 2008, 18 months into a 5-year contract with the Bulldogs, Sonny Bill Williams vanished. He left Australia without telling a single teammate or club official. He traveled with his manager's brother, using a Samoan passport to avoid detection, headed for Toulon, France, a rugby union club then coached by former All Black Tana Umaga. The deal on the table was reportedly worth around $3 million over 2 years, more than double what he earned at the Bulldogs. When the Bulldogs CEO found out, the response was immediate and furious. The club took Williams to the Supreme Court of Australia and secured an injunction that threatened to prevent him from playing anywhere in the world. Williams, meanwhile, was stranded in London without a French visa, exposed, isolated, and hunted by immigration authorities and legal teams across 2 continents. The settlement that followed cost Toulon approximately $750,000 Australian dollars. Williams had bought his way out of the contract, but the damage to his reputation was total. The rugby league community condemned him with a ferocity rarely seen. He was branded disloyal, selfish, and dishonest. Fan forums erupted. Former teammates refused to speak to him. Amsi's 15-year feud with the Bulldogs had begun. He arrived in France as the most controversial rugby player on the planet. The exile, Toulon, and the slow rebuild France was not a warm welcome. Sonny Bill Williams arrived at Toulon as a rugby league player attempting to learn rugby union from scratch. 2 entirely different sports that share only a ball and a field. The transition was brutal. The systems, the laws, the positions, the contact, all of it was foreign. His first season was difficult. Critics in Australia watched from a distance, waiting for him to fail. But Williams did not fail. He trained with obsessive discipline, absorbed the union game at a pace that surprised coaches and teammates alike, and began to find his feet. Over 30 games for Toulon, he developed the skills that would define his union career, in particular, the offload, the ability to release the ball out of contact even when wrapped in a tackle at full speed with pinpoint accuracy. It became his signature. It became the move that would one day help win a World Cup. When his Toulon contract expired in 2010, the offers that arrived were staggering. Toulon reportedly tabled a 3-year, $6 million deal believed at the time to be the largest contract offer in rugby union history. Williams turned it down. Instead, he signed with New Zealand Rugby for a fraction of that money. He had one goal: to wear the All Blacks jersey, the redemption, All Blacks, World Cups, and the medal. In November 2010, Sonny Bill Williams walked onto the field at Twickenham in an All Blacks jersey. He became the first player in nearly 90 years to represent New Zealand in rugby union after first doing so in rugby league. The man who had been condemned as a traitor was now playing for the most celebrated rugby team on earth. In 2011, he was part of the All Blacks squad that won the Rugby World Cup on home soil in New Zealand, New Zealand's first World Cup victory since 1987. In Chatitsa 2015, he did it again. 2 World Cup winners' medals, 2 titles. The redemption was complete, but the moment that defined his legacy happened after the 2015 final whistle at Twickenham. A 14-year-old fan named Charlie Line had run onto the field in celebration and was tackled hard by a security guard. Williams picked the boy up, looked him in the eyes, and gave him his World Cup winner's medal. Not a replica, not a gesture. The actual gold medal from the actual final. Williams walked away with nothing in his hands and everything in his legacy. The truth behind the escape. Years later, Sonny Bill Williams finally explained what happened in 2008. In multiple interviews, he described a man in crisis, suffering from what he now recognizes as serious mental health struggles, living a lifestyle that was destroying him from the inside, trapped in a situation he lacked the courage and tools to confront directly. He admitted the way he left was wrong. He admitted he should have spoken up, stood up, and handled it differently. But he also said this: if he had not run, he would not have survived. The escape to France was not cowardice. It was survival. And from that survival came 2 World Cup titles, 58 All Blacks caps, a boxing career in which he went undefeated, and one of the most complete sporting biographies of the modern era. In 2023, 15 years after the scandal, Williams returned to the Bulldogs training facility. He spoke to the players. By all accounts, the room was speechless. Sonny Bill Williams' story is not a simple story of betrayal. It is a story about what happens when a man is broken, makes the wrong choices for the right reasons, and then spends a decade earning back everything he lost, and more. He ran away from a contract, a club, and a country that loved him. He returned as a double World Cup champion who gave his medal to a stranger. The man Australia called a traitor became the man New Zealand called a legend. True redemption is not announced. It is built slowly and painfully, one decision at a time. Sonny Bill Williams built his, and the rugby world will never forget it. If this story hit different, share it with someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to rebuild. Subscribe to Rugby Warzone for more epic stories of the legends who fell, fought back, and changed the game forever. See you in the next one.